On today's program, we travel to Muskogee, Oklahoma to visit a daycare with a curriculum set in the garden. We look at the hardy ice plant. We also travel to Oklahoma City to look at another winner of our Viewers Garden Contest. And Extension Turfgrass Specialist Dennis Martin identifies some of the pesky large summer weeds in the landscape and some of the winter annual weeds that are just popping up. Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance is provided by TLC, Oklahoma's leading garden center, Southwood Landscape and Nursery, Tulsa's source for great gardens, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing.
Look what you got! Okay, put it in the bucket.
Well, today we're in Muskogee, Oklahoma at the Little Sprouts Learning Center, and I'm here with Christina Camp. She's been doing a daycare for about 20 years, and she's incorporated gardening into the daycare curricula for about the last 4. So today we're going to explore her garden and see why she does it with her kids. So this is your garden, and you haven't had the whole thing the whole 4 years.
Right, this expansion we've had for 2.
So this is just right outside your daycare.
Right.
And what do you do with the kids out here?
They plant everything. They plant all kind of seeds and seedlings. We're going to plant some Brussels sprouts to grow this winter. Who likes to eat Brussels sprouts? Me too. Okay, we need a hole that's 1 knuckle deep for these Brussels sprouts. Just now get you 3 seeds and put in your hole. You can do it.
I got
Get 3 seeds. Put your finger in there. Make a hole. Once you have your seeds in there, then put a little bit of dirt over the top of them. Right.
Just one knuckle, just a little bit.
Like 1 knuckle.
Can you do it?
You got yours smushed? Good. It's pretty. They're pretty wet because they got rain last night, but let's put a little water on them. Good job. Pass it. They pick a few weeds. They're not, too super into that, but we do just everything, teaching them about different life
Look what
that's
we
out
found.
here, like butterflies and caterpillars. And
What's that? Caterpillar.
Color that caterpillar is? What? 3 colors. What colors?
Black, green, yellow.
Green, yellow, and
Green.
You said it. Say it again.
Yellow
Black.
and green. Green, yellow, and black.
Anything you can think of. The garden can teach everything.
And so what age are the kids that you work with?
1 to 5.
And do they all get a chance to come out here?
Mm-hmm.
And have you noticed that they have their lives have changed? Any like they're learning more about where their food comes from? Do they mention it? Do they eat
A lot.
healthier?
Yeah, whenever we started, I asked the kids, what do you want to grow? We had one little 3x10 bed that we started with, and they were like, pizza, hamburgers. And so, they have no idea. Kids don't see any part of the food process. They don't know what that meat is animals or anything. So, they've gone from that to getting their families to shop at the farmer's market, growing food at their own house, knowing everything about this and how to do this.
Well, that's what, and you don't just stop at the plants. I notice you also, it's a wildlife certified habitat. And I notice you've grown some birdhouse gourds.
Yes.
And do you have the kids help make those into birdhouses?
And they all got to take some home and have birdhouse gourds at their house and stuff. So.
And in addition to the birds, I noticed that you have over here, you have like a little pollination station, like you have little things that critters can make homes in. So tell me about the different critters you've seen in here.
Well, we've seen a lot of wasps. Over there we have habitat for mason bees, and we've made homemade mason bee houses, and then we bought some store-bought ones, and they're hanging all around the yard. And we've seen them pack them with mud and had all those types of experiences.
So what do the kids like to find the insects? Do they know the difference between like a good one and a bad one?
Most of them do, the older ones especially. You know, that it's a process of learning. A lot of the kids are scared of bugs when they start, even a ladybug or something, and then they learn, you know, to hold a ladybug in their hand and what the ladybugs do to help the garden. And so they have a lot of change from the time they start until the time they leave. Some of my kids were older when we started, and so now they're teenagers and they're out telling people how to grow chemical-free food and stuff. So, and they know all the bugs and what's good and what's not good.
So about how many times a day or how much time in a week do the kids actually get to spend out here with the garden?
We spend about 30 minutes a day out here when it's hot like this. You know, it gets shorter as it gets hotter. In the springtime, we spend all of our outside time out here. In the fall, we do too, but weather directs a lot of that because you have to keep them healthy too.
So do they? They get to eat some of this, and do they help you cook it?
I let them make different recipes. We have a blog, and I share a lot of the recipes that the kids make on there. But we do all kind of stuff, which we did a lot of cooking with the kids before we started the garden. But then I got really concerned once I was learning a lot about our food supply. And, you know, like you'll hear like listeria is on whatever at the grocery store. And so I thought, how could I protect them from the food supply being so unpredictable? And so we started learning how to garden. It was right at the time when I wanted to really do that I got invited to the gardening class on Gardening with Your Daycare. And
so who put on that class?
It was Cherokee Nation and Smart Start, and then that was in Tahlequah. And then the garden mentor that we had, Doug Walton, did one here with the health department and Smart Start. And so he's just been helping me and teaching me ever since. So he's helped get a lot of this going too.
So I noticed you got raised beds because you've got clay soil,
yes,
just like the rest of the state seems to have. But you didn't know about that before you took the gardening class.
No, I didn't know that the clay suffocates the roots because the water doesn't drain. So every time we would grow something, you know, it would get going, but then it would just fall over, and I didn't know why. So whenever he taught the class, he told us that you have what kinds of things you need in your soil, like air, you know, and something to put nutrients in there, because clay doesn't have a lot of nutrients either. So then we started doing the raised beds and were able to grow things.
So what advice would you give someone who wanted to do this with kids, wanted to get a garden going, and they just overwhelmed and don't know where to start?
It can be overwhelming, but you really have to start small and be patient with yourself. And you have to be patient with the kids because they're not gardening experts. And, you know, like yesterday we had an interview with a new child, and we took him out to the garden to show him, and he picked a bunch of green tomatoes, and his parents were like, don't do that. And I was like, that's how you learn, you know. And we're learning colors because we're learning what red and green tomatoes are. You can learn, all the curriculum can be learned in the garden. So it's a really good learning experience.
Well, that's a really neat thing. I think we should bring the kids out and see how they enjoy interacting with the garden.
Great. Come on, Eli, you want to hold hands? Hold on just 1 second. Come on, you want to hold hands? It's okay if Daddy comes. That's okay. Oh, if you can come. Hold it. See if you can get it. Oh, shake it. It's got lots of dirt. Okay, let Aria have a turn. Find you a bigger one. Now what will we do? What else do they need to grow? Yep.
For more information on gardening with kids, contact your local OSU Cooperative Extension Office. Explore resources on our youth gardening website, or check out OSU Cooperative Extension Fact Sheet HLA 6402, Children's Gardens in Which to Learn and Grow.
What do you think, buddy? Is that a good tomato?
With a bitsy tiny one. Yay, Oklahoma gardening!
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Peyton Wines. I'm a junior landscape architecture student here at Oklahoma State and currently a student worker here at the Botanic Gardens. Now, right now, I'm at the Education Building beds, just to the south of the Education Building here at the Botanic Gardens. And today I'd like to talk to you about one of my favorite plants of the gardens. It's one of my favorites just because I've seen it work well in many gardens here in Oklahoma. It's called hardy ice plant. That's its common name. The scientific name is Delosperma, and specifically here we have Delosperma cooperi. And you can identify cooperi by these nice pink magenta flowers, but they can come in different varieties. That can be either pink, yellow, or white. As you can see, it's a good, nice ground cover plant here. It can spread anywhere from 8 to 24 inches wide, and it can get to a height of 2 to 12 inches. I've never seen it get up to 12 inches. The most I've seen is about here, like 3 inches. The reason it works so well here in Oklahoma is it's a native to South Africa, so it's very tolerant of our heat here. So it takes little water, little maintenance. It's got little no insect or disease problems, and it's a perennial. So unless you have a very wet or harsh winter, it's going to come up every year. I would definitely recommend this plant as a border plant, either in a xeriscape garden or a rock garden where you may have a lot of sandy soil, so it's very well drained. It doesn't take well to waterlog soils. So if you're looking for a plant that's going to work well in here in Oklahoma, I would definitely recommend a hardy ice plant, Delosperma.
Well, today we're in Oklahoma City and we are at the home of one of our viewer garden winners, and this is Greg Heartsill. And Greg, we're so excited to be in your garden, and thank you for inviting us in.
I'm glad to be here. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm looking forward to showing you my garden.
That's awesome. Well, Greg, tell us, this year's theme was water use, and specifically kind of talking about wise garden use. And what was your vision for your garden when you planted it?
Well, first of all, I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a lawn. I've mowed a lot in my life, and I didn't want a lawn. I've decided that big deck, circular drive, gravel walkway would be fine. So that's what I've based my ideas on.
That's great. And who helped you make this come to life?
Oh, first of all, I've got a lot of helpful consultation through the years with John Fluitt.
That's
he
great.
provided me with great guidance for some of the stuff I've done.
Very good. And so how did you choose? We can kind of look around and see what you chose. What are some of the plants that you chose, and why did you choose them? I see this just beautiful tree here.
This is the parasol, a Chinese varnish tree. When I used to walk at the Arboretum at Will Rogers Park, I saw one. I enjoyed the huge leaves. Now it's not evergreen, but in the summer the huge leaf provides a great canopy. But one of my favorite trees, I have 7 live oaks. These live oaks were grown from acorns from the native stand of live oaks, indigenous to Oklahoma's Quartz Mountain. And they are hardy. If they can survive in western Oklahoma, they can survive anywhere. They take it with drought tolerant, a lot of water. They've done just fine. The 2 in the front yard I planted in '98, which was one of the hottest years we've ever had, and they just thrive. So I'm really happy to have the live oaks here, the hardy Quartz Mountain live oaks.
That's great. And that's actually a key part of a water use type landscape, is that it can do with what water is available, if it's a drought year or if it's a deluge like we've had this year. And the native plants, any native plants that you can get, it's good to have those because they can take whatever weather comes at them in our area.
I have a number of almost 2 dozen Nellie R. Stevens hollies, which once I got those established, they don't need any watering. Now I've also tried to come in with some Allegheny viburnums. I've got 5 of them here, but I then have come back in and just brought in some nandinas, domestica nandinas particularly, that I've tried to just tolerate Oklahoma's summers. And they provide evergreen. Now one of the mainstays of this garden is the Liripe, the monkey grass. After all this rain, I've gotten to where I call it gorilla grass instead of monkey grass because they've just grown tremendously. So I've got a lot of that, and they stay green in the winter, which is nice. When the snow's covered, I still have some green in the garden.
That's good. That's also another aspect, is using plants that have tested well, like over time, even though they've been imported, they do well in our area with the climate that we have, and that's a really good part. I noticed that you have put a lot of stress on plants that are evergreen. You like green.
I do. I don't. Now, if I had it to do over again, I would have more hardy quartz mountain live oaks all over. I just like those, but I do like the green. Now, you mentioned the native Oklahoma proven, the Arizona cypress behind me.
Yes.
Never waters that. I had a little trouble. Now, it's in the shade. It doesn't do as well as maybe it would in another location, but it also provides a little different texture and a little different color.
It does. It's a good way to add color to your garden without relying on a bloom. Now, you do have some blooming plants here. What are some of the blooming plants that you do use? I noticed that you've got crepe myrtles.
I have some small crepe myrtles. When I originally moved in, I had a tremendous shade tree, an old box elder that covered the deck and provided great shade, and this was the only area that was getting any sun. So I planted some hawthorn, some dwarf crepe myrtles, and then I've got a burning bush, and I just like the color of that in the fall. I understand that when you get a lot of rain in the fall, in the spring, you're going to get a lot of red out of that burning bush, so I'm excited to see what happens this year after our record amount of rain. But those are about the only colors that I have, except, well, that's just about it. The hawthorns haven't done anything except survive. In my garden, if they can survive and thrive with neglect, they're going to be fine. And I haven't had to do much. They're kind of crowded there, but...
So, tell me a little bit about your hardscapes that you have here, because this path is actually very stable. And what have you used on this to create this path?
I put in a base of clean screenings. I've got about 11 tons included in the circular drive in front, and then I've added almost 24 tons of river rock that provides the pathway, and I have changed that path from time to time, but it goes around the deck and it does provide, it is my circular drive. And one of the things I really like is the crunch under your feet when you walk. It's not like walking on concrete. It's always got a nice crunch to it. So, and when this gets wet, it's just really pretty.
Yes.
A lot of pretty when it's wet.
Well, you mentioned that about it getting wet. That's another aspect of a Waterwise type garden, is that the hardscapes that you have are permeable to water. And so you don't get the runoff from it. It actually soaks into the ground, and it's so much better than having concrete, because you're keeping your water where it lands. And so it's just really all comes together to make a beautiful and very water use friendly garden. I just really like what you've done here.
Thank you. Whenever I first started, I had to augment the soil, and I used dry grass clippings from the curbside from my neighbors. I would just grab their bags of clean grass clippings and spread it everywhere, 4 inches deep, and this soil now is just wonderful. You can see this monkey grass. Of course, 40 inches of water didn't hurt it either, but nonetheless, it'll grow anything, and I'm really happy about that.
Now, when you say clean grass clippings, what does that mean?
Well, it's just the grass that I see in neighbors that take care of their yards. Now, I like nice lawns. I just don't want to take care of one. And when I drive by and see someone that has a nice lawn and they put their bags out there of their grass clippings, well, then I've taken those, let them dry so they're not hot, and then I spread them all over the garden. I had them 4 or 5 inches thick when I was first started. Provide a great base and really has helped the soil. And things just grow, and that's what I'm about, conserving energy and not having to water or be out here and mow, because when you have a lawn, you have to mow when it wants to. In this garden, I can do it on my own schedule, and that's usually in the winter or cool weather.
That's great. So you're conserving your energy as well.
Exactly. You see the Prius in the garage. I'm on Smart Hours Electric. Anything about conservation, I'm for.
Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for showing us your landscape, and we might have to just sit down and enjoy it now.
It's my pleasure, Brenda. Thank you.
It's early September in Oklahoma, and during this time our thoughts turn to reestablishing cool season lawns, but also in terms of our weed control practices. It's an important time of year to realize what we can control and what we can't control. So it's a great time to take notes and correct our programs for the coming year, as well as to think about our programs for control of winter annual weeds. We've recently had some rains in late August and early September, and this has led to the germination of some of the winter annual or cool season weeds. And in this segment we'll be covering the germination of those, and then also some of the large summer annuals and warm season perennials that it's too late to control, but it's time for proper identification of so we can improve our programs in the future. The first winter annual that I'd like to show in this segment is henbit. And henbit germinates anywhere from late August through January. We first find it germinating in the cool, sheltered areas on the north sides of tree lines, and until it produces its first true leaves, it's difficult to see which winter annual it is. But you'll look for the crenate-shaped leaves of henbit. It will have square stems. It's a member of the mint family, but we won't be able to actually detect that the stems are square until 3 or 4 weeks after germination. But this is henbit. It's a very common winter annual broadleaf in Oklahoma, and in very late winter, early spring, it'll produce the very characteristic purple flowers. Common chickweed is a very widespread winter annual broadleaf plant in Oklahoma and throughout the U.S. And with our rains in late August, it also germinated, and here we see the first true leaves on common chickweed. Yellow foxtail is a summer annual warm season grass in Oklahoma, and in early September it's easy to see the seed head of it. It's a prolific producer of seed. This plant germinated in the March or April time frame, and then it'll be killed out by the first frosts in October or November. Prostrate spurge is a summer annual in Oklahoma. It's a member of the euphorbia family, and because of its heat and drought tolerance, we can oftentimes find it growing in the cracks in sidewalks or in gravel driveways, as well as the lawn. And many times during a drought, it'll be one of the few plants in the lawn that actually stays green during the drought when our turf grass has already turned tan from drought stress. So this is prostrate spurge, a summer annual, and it germinated in the April-May time frame, and it will be killed out by the frosts in the fall. Another plant found in droughty soils or in the cracks of sidewalks is the porjo plant, which can be a summer annual to a short-lived perennial. It has a sister species, Virginia buttonweed, but porjo is much more drought tolerant, so we see it spread out more over the entire state rather than in the southeastern corner of the state. Now, porjo and Virginia buttonweed will have similarly shaped elongated leaves, and both will have white cross-shaped flower petals in the axils of the leaves, but the flowers of porjo are considerably smaller than those of Virginia buttonweed. Yellow wood sorrel is a summer annual in Oklahoma. Its scientific name is Oxalis stricta, and it's closely related to the ornamental oxalis plants that we might grow inside of our house or in our garden. Dallas grass is a warm season perennial clumping grass with very short rhizomes. It has very broad leaves, and it's very difficult to control in our landscapes. It's a problem because not only texturally does it interfere with the visual quality of our lawn, but also it can throw up these enormous seed heads just the day after mowing, and it can look like it's been quite some time since we've mowed our lawn. Common throughout Oklahoma is small or smooth crabgrass, and it's Digitaria ischemum is the scientific name. And the Digitaria are called as such because the inflorescence or flower looks like the digits on a hand. Here you see the crabgrass seed head next to the seed head of Dallas grass. On the left of your screen is prostrate knotweed. On your right is prostrate spurge. People commonly confuse both of these prostrate plants. They're both heat and drought tolerant in Oklahoma and widely found throughout the state. One of the greatest identification features to separate the two was the milky white sap of the broken stem of the spurge. The prostrate knotweed has a clear sap. Also, the upper stems of the prostrate spurge will have either a pink or a red coloration, whereas prostrate knotweed will simply be green. While the late summer days of late August and early September are a great time to identify summer annuals and the warm season perennials, they're actually a poor time to control them. So think about the proper timing of pre-emergent herbicides that are done in late winter or early spring, usually a split application program. So the first application would be in the January to early February time frame, and the second application of the pre-emergent would be in 8 to 12 weeks later. You can catch the warm season annuals with an early post-emergent application of herbicide in May, but once we get into the hot days of summer or late summer and the plants are large and they're actually quite hardened, they're very difficult to control. So at this time of year, it's time to learn about the plants, be able to identify them, and think about next year's control programs for your warm season annual weeds.
We sure would love to see you Saturday, September 26th in Stillwater for Garden Fest at the Botanic Garden at Oklahoma State University. Festivities begin at 10 a.m. and culminate in the afternoon with a free concert by the Red Dirt Rangers. Next week, we'll have another winner of our Viewers Garden Contest. Extension entomologist Eric Rebeck will have information about spider mites and webworms. And Extension Turfgrass Specialist Justin Moss will perform a calibrated overseeding of fescue. Join us then for more TV You'll Grow to Love. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussions on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows, as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater jewel. We wish to thank our generous underwriters, TLC Garden Centers, Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is provided by Pond Pro Shops, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, and the Oklahoma Horticultural Society.